Hey guys, welcome back. This last year's been really busy between working full time, trying to edit and film these videos, and spending time with my family. And because of that, I haven't posted nearly as much as I wanted to. A lot of the projects around the house have gone either undocumented or were just too boring to really post anything about. Well, it's a new year, and we're feeling a little bit ambitious this year. We got a lot of projects that are already underway. We've got some new things coming up, and new videos, and some new adventures we're planning to do with the kids. So stay tuned for all of that. Let's get into it. This video is about our seed haul that we picked up from Epic Gardener, as well as planning our beds for next year. The seed company at Epic Gardener is called Botanical Interests. It's a Colorado-based company. I've never used them before, so we're going to give it a shot. If you're interested in trying these same seeds or anything like that, check out their website at Epic Gardener. You can use Bog Life as your code and get 5% off.
First off, they sent a seed starting guide along with a free packet of lettuce seeds. Now, inside the seed starting guide, they not only explain the how and when to plant, but give an example of a plant tag. The plant tags are attached to each one of the packages of seeds. On the tag, it lists the plant's variety and cultivar name, and then an illustration of what the seedling will look like, when the plant will emerge, how deep to plant and proper spacing, the maturity date, and finally, a place to put the date you planted the seeds. This is what we picked up. A couple varieties of beans, a Blue Lake pole bean, a Trinofo violetta pole bean, and Sugar Daddy snap peas. We also picked up some peppers. We have a sweet banana pepper, a candy cane chocolate cherry sweet pepper, and a Megatron jalapeno pepper. For cucumbers, we have homemade pickles, and we got a lemon cucumber. Look, so that is a lemon cucumber. You see how it kind of looks like a lemon? You'll be able to take this right off the vine and eat it just like an apple. How does that sound?
Good.
Good. Next are the tomatoes. We have Glacier Bush tomatoes, Gardener's Delight Pole Cherry tomatoes, and a San Marzano Pole Roma tomato. We got the free package of lettuce seeds, but we also got the Vivian romaine lettuce. And lastly, we have our onions. We picked up a yellow sweet Spanish Utah onion and Zabroon shallots.
Now we're moving on to our planning. This year our frost date is April 30th. So we try to plan everything around that, but I feel more comfortable getting everything out about Mother's Day. And this year that's going to be May 11th. In the past, and I've talked to some other people that have planted as well and gotten things out, and one of the things that ends up happening is that we still might, right around that last frost, the end of April, early May, there's always a chance that we're going to get hit with a frost. This is Wisconsin. So that Mother's Day deadline of when we're going to try to put everything in is still tentative. If it's still pretty cold, we may push it back a little further. Every year we try something new, and things seem to change just a little bit. We made some mistakes last year, mostly with overcrowding and overplanting. And planting too many varieties. But we did find out from planting 4 different Romas, there wasn't much difference between 2 of the different varieties, but the San Marzano and the Amish paste produced more sauce and more pulp that we could use for our different things. So we're going to stick with just those 2 this year and mix out some of the others, and then we're going to continue that throughout the entire process of planting the garden. On top of that, we're going to do a little bit better job this year of making sure that our plants get trimmed and they get the fertilizer they need to make sure that we have a bumper crop. I've created a diagram to help out with the organization and planning of the garden. And as I talk, I'll leave that up on the screen and you can kind of watch where I go to different spots of the garden and different garden beds. We've numbered them to make it a little bit easier for me and for you to follow along. We start off in the northeast corner of the garden with the bed that we're going to call bed 1, and that bed has all of our garlic. We planted that last year, late October, early November-ish, and that should be coming up here this spring. We'll remove the straw from the top of it that's kind of insulated, keeping everything warm, and then we'll see how it runs from there. But I will leave a link for that video up above. Every year we rotate what we plant clockwise, except for our garlic. Our garlic stays on the four corners of the garden, and that's just to make sure that when we plant our trellises and when things start to overfill on the trellises, they don't outshadow or shadow our garlic and they get full sun the entire time. And once you, bed 2 and bed 5 each have double trellises on either end, which is great for growing beans and different climbing vines or climbing plants. So we don't want to lose the ability to use all four trellises and only have the outsides of the corners. Now what we're planting this year, we're moving clockwise in bed 2, we're planting our cucumbers and our eggplant. We are starting off with our Space Master cucumber, our lemon cucumbers that we just picked up, and our homemade pickle cucumbers, which we also picked up from Epic Gardener. Last year we lost a lot of our cucumbers due to overcrowding. We planted too much in that area, so we're going to scale back what we're actually planting and kind of space it appropriately to make sure that everything has room to grow. And then we're going to hit it with our fertilizer, make sure that we're on top of the watering, and harvest frequently to make sure nothing yellows out so we continuously have that crop. And it gives it more room and time to sprout and grow new cucumbers or new plants. Now we're moving to bed 3. This is the one that's a little strange because it's the first bed we started is where we started planting our garlic. And right now on the east end of that, we have our blueberry bushes. We have 2 of them. They get to be about 30 inches tall, and that might be fine there for now, but we're really losing the ability to really plant in that bed fully. So we are contemplating maybe building 2 smaller beds to go on the 2 corners of the northeast and the southeast corner of the garden that would house these 2 blueberry bushes. They'd be much smaller. But if I get to do that this year, then what we'll do is film some videos for that, and I'll show you how to build smaller beds, looking just like the larger bed and the small berry bed as well. Now, as for the tomatoes, last year I believe we planted 7 different varieties. This year we're really scaling that back. And we are going to be planting our 2 different types of aromas. Like I said before, we've got our San Marzano and Amish paste. And then we'll be planting our Glacier Bush tomatoes. These are a 30-inch plant and should only need to be staked. The last variety is our Gardener's Delight pole tomato. That's going to go along the trellis and trace up the trellis. Like it's to be about 6 feet long and should produce little cherry tomatoes. And we'll probably plant about 3 or 4 of those to take over the trellis. And stick with us. I'll update you on what we're going to be doing with these beds and planting the tomatoes. We will be planning everything out. You can see that I'm being very meticulous about exactly how many of each one of those tomatoes I want to plant. But that could change at any moment, especially once I get everything planted. And if there's too much space, I gotta try to control myself not to throw something in there. Now jumping across to the west for bed 4. We're moving in the very first section is going to be our Sugar Daddy peas. The boys love going out there and picking the peas and just going crazy with that. So we're going to make sure we probably plant about 20 different plants in that area because they only need a couple inch spacing between them in 2 different rows to make sure we can get in there and pick everything, and we'll trellis each one of those rows up individually. And then we are also going to do some okra. Last year, I think I tried to plant some okra last year, and what ended up happening is I just let them go too long. And what happens if you don't pick them when they're about 1.5 inches, 2 inches to 3 inches, if you don't pick them right away, the okra will stop growing and won't produce anymore. And that's what ended up happening. It started to become real woody, and we didn't get much of a crop. So we're going to make sure that we start picking that pretty frequently because since this is our snacking bed for the boys, we're going to go on and plant our sweet peppers in here as well. We've got a banana pepper that we're going to be planting, a sweet banana pepper. We've got our California Wonder peppers that we're going to be planting. Those are a bell pepper that start out green, and as they ripen, they turn red and sweeten up a little bit. And then we've got our new variety of peppers that we're going to try out, and I'm pretty sure the boys are excited about this just because of the name, and that's our candy cane chocolate cherry sweet peppers. They're about 1.5 to 2 inches in size, comparable to those sweet peppers you get in the bags from the grocery store, that type of size. So we're hoping to plant maybe more of those. My guess, you're going to see them in the background while we're filming videos raiding that bed all the time. Next, we slide up to bed 5, and this one is going to be primarily a root or in the ground vegetables that we're planting. So we've got our two different types of carrots. We've got our Danver carrots, which are a smaller orange variety, and then our black nebula carrots, which are a dark black to purplish carrot. I've not had success so far this year, in the past years, growing carrots. I have a tendency to plant them with other things, and they just don't do well. So this year, they're going to be their own separate thing. They're going to be standalone by themselves and see if we can have a little bit of success with it. Then next to that, we've got our Zabroon shallots. We use a lot of shallots. I like cooking with shallots, so we're going to give that a shot, about 10 or so of those. And then our sweet Spanish Utah onions, which I'm going to try to get about 20 or so in. They do winter real well, and we do use a lot of onions, especially with our salsas and sauces. So we'll try to see if we can get our own little crop of those and get that all situated. We will have to top this bed, especially early in the spring, because it is sunken about 2 or 3 inches. And Stony Island, where I get my purple cow compost, doesn't open up until April 15th. So I'm not going to be able to get anything until probably 18th or 19th. That's when I'm going to be able to get out there. But in the meantime, I might have to pull some of that soil away, that compost away, lay a little bit of layer of topsoil that I have from when they laid the slabs last year that's sitting in the back, just to bump everything up, just to create a little bit of fill space for it. And then we'll put a nice layer of compost as soon as I can right on top of it. And that's only if I have to plant the week or two prior, just to make sure everything gets in the ground. And for the last of our larger beds, bed 6, this is going to be mostly greens. Now we are going to be starting off with a Polby variety called Trinofol Violette, or Violetta. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that, but it's going to be a purplish bean that when you cook it, it'll turn green. So we're going to be starting off with that right along the trellis. It's going to be growing up over the top. And then we're going to be planting 2 different types of basil. We've got a mammoth basil and a Genovese basil. We had excellent basil last year, and we've had some great success with this. So we're not going to plant as much. I think last year I planted 4, and I couldn't keep up with it. So we'll probably just get a total of maybe 2 or 3 of these types of basil, see if we can stay on top of it. And as for our greens, we're going to grow a couple different lettuces. We've got our butter crunch lettuce, and then a Vivian romaine lettuce that we just picked up from Epic Gardener, along with our dinosaur kale that Graham really likes, and then our Copenhagen market cabbage. I've not had great success with cabbage, so we're going to try it again when I have a bed completely designated to greens, see if we can get something to pop up. Come June, when the garlic is all harvested, that'll open up, and we'll probably utilize that one for more greens that we'll continue to harvest into the fall. Over the last couple of years, when we've harvested our spicy peppers, we've noticed a slight. We've had certain successes and failures, and when I grow them in the pots, we don't get as much, but we're able to try different peppers to see if we like them, but we don't have the harvest that we normally would. Not like we did in the birdie beds in the center, which you can also pick up at Epic Gardener. That we had over 150 or 180 Carolina Reapers off of 2 plants, and then another 80 or so ghost peppers. So we're going to try to move our peppers over there again, but we're going to do it a little bit different. I've labeled this one A and B, and C is our annuals, and that one we won't talk about because that could change once we go to Stein's or out to Ebert's. We'll make decisions on that. But in bed A, I'm going to go with a milder variety of pepper, and we've got our Megatron jalapeno, which get to be about 4 to 5 inches, and then our regular early jalapenos, which are about 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 inches. Another one of our lemon drops. I really like the flavor of that. It's a little bit milder, at least as the hot peppers are concerned, with some of the other varieties, especially the varieties that are in our bed B. So we're going to try some, just maybe do one of those and see what we can come up with. But once we get to bed B, this is where we are doing some different stuff. We're going to be doing our ghost pepper again, because I had no success with ghost pepper last year. I've maybe had a handful of them that I was able to use, and I want to be able to make some hot sauces with that. So we're going to plant a couple of ghost peppers, and then from a friend, he gave us seeds that he had from his harvest last year of scorpion peppers, and then chocolate habaneros. These are ridiculously hot peppers, and I can't wait to use them and stuff and see what we can do and try the taste of some of them. Never tried a scorpion outright, and I've never tried a chocolate habanero, so I'm really interested in that. We are skipping out on the Carolina Reapers this year, and that's mostly because 2 years ago in 2023, like I said earlier, had about 180 Carolina Reapers, and I dried most of them. So I have an entire gallon bag of dehydrated Carolina Reapers. I don't need any more. I'm going to use some of these up, rehydrate them, and use them throughout the year. And maybe next year we consider doing more, but we don't need anything right now. And the last part of our planning process is our pots. Anything that we don't have room for in the beds often go in pots. We have a lot of different variety, different types. I even have grow bags, which we are not using. I've had almost no success in grow bags because you really need to stay up on watering them because they dry out so quickly. They don't have any water retention at all. So a lot of stuff dries out. We had no success with our potatoes when we did those. That's where we had a lot of our hot peppers last year. So that's probably has something to do with the lack of moisture, was why they weren't so successful. So we're going to try to use some different pots. Uh, in there, we normally have our rosemary that does real well, arugula, different herbs, and any other impromptu purchase that we have from either Steins or Eberts will go into those pots. But we also have a couple other variety of peppers and other things that we want to grow that don't have a place in the gardens because we're just going to run out of room, again, to help fight against that overcrowding. We're going to plant our Scotch bonnets into a pot. We've done real well with Scotch bonnets in pots, and I've gotten exactly what I need every year out of those pots. And the last one is a new one, also got from the same friend that gave us the chocolate habanero and the scorpion, and that is a Fratelli chili. I don't know much about it. I know it's yellow. I know it's spicy, so we're gonna give it a shot. A lot of these experiments are just to see what things taste like. I'm not doing a huge harvest of them and doing like 2 or 3 plants. I'm gonna do maybe 1 or 2 just to see what we can get and see what they taste like. And if we decide we like them, then that'll be something we put onto the table next year and we make sure we grow more of. And the last thing I want to give a shot to is our zucchini. I often plant those in the beds, but what ends up happening is they take up too much real estate. They really overcrowd everything else and each other. You get 2 or 3 of them, and that's really about it because they start to compete for space. So I thought, well, I'll give it a shot in one of our larger pots and see if I can get something out of that. Even if I get 1 or 2, that's all I really need to make our zucchini bread, freeze, or make a ratatouille or anything like that, especially since we have our eggplant growing in, what is it, bed 2. So we'll see what we can do with that and see how that turns out. There will be contingencies, there will be changes, and the inevitable reworking of the entire garden potentially, or all the beds. So this is what we're starting with. This is more than likely what it's going to end up being, but I can't say for sure that things aren't going to change, especially if we head out to Eberts or out to Steins and find a new variety of something that we've never tried that we want to. Then we're going to have to make some plans, and there are going to have to be some changes made to the beds.
And to do that, I really try to organize everything. And I create a spreadsheet where I have the planting schedule and the quantity of each one of the plants I'm going to be growing from seed. And what I've done is I've listed it and organized it into the different beds. And I've put in how many I'm going to grow and when I'm either going to start the seed, whether I'm going to put it directly into the soil either after the frost when the soil is workable or a couple weeks before the frost ends. I'll get into the specifics of each variety when we start planting them.
Like I said at the beginning of the video, when I do grow everything from seed, I grow a lot extra, and that's just to make sure that I have the best possible plants that I can put into the garden. And because I have all that extra, I end up giving it out to family and friends. But one of the things I have to again combat is to make sure that I don't try to plant and force more of these plants, especially when they look really good. It's really hard to give away a really good looking plant when you know you can grow it right here and get something out of it. But then the inevitable that's going to overcrowd and create problems. So we're really going to have to focus on combating that this year, making sure that we have all of that space and the gaps, so not only we can get in there and trim, we can fertilize and water, and then make sure that we have good harvest this fall. Now, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.